Speaker Nancy Pelosi facing new questions about how much control she has over her own party. This comes after a week of infighting about an anti-hate resolution that the House passed yesterday. Some Democrats upset that the final measure did not mention Ilhan Omar by name following her recent comments that are being called anti-Semitic. In an apparent dig at the freshman lawmaker, a senior House Democrat telling Fox News, quote, "All of our problems are caused by three people." House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy blasting Pelosi for failing to rein in her new members.
You need to mark it as the moment that the new Democrat socialist wing of the party overtook their own leadership. The socialist grip could not be tighter. This isn't the Democratic Party that we've come to know. The transition is now complete. That the Democrat socialist wing of the party controls their own leadership.
It's interesting, Brian, that Nancy Pelosi really owes her speakership not to these new firebrands, the freshmen that are making all the noise in the news, but to the moderates that won in swing districts and beat those Republicans that were having a tough time. But now it's like the only one that can get attention are the freshman members that are making a lot of noise.
It's unbelievable because in the beginning it was like, look how powerful she is. Look at what command she has. And look at how Paul Ryan dropped the ball. And then they thought, wow, is she going to be able to go to the middle to make sure those moderates keep those seats? And now the story is, how did she get this so out of control where it needed 48 hours just to have a resolution that would say anti-Semitism is wrong? Now we had a resolution that said everything we learned in first grade still holds. Don't be mean to people. And now we have a situation where they actually told us, did these freshmen, this Minnesota freshman in particular, Omar, when she came out and said, oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to change the rules because I'm going to be wearing this headdress. 181 years, no one was allowed to wear anything on their heads. Now they can. Then they go out and go, Lindsey Graham is compromised. I thought to myself, what's going on here? And then we find out about all these other past tweets and her apologies and backtracking. And then you see a situation where no one can rein them in. I thought she chose in the beginning not to. Now I realize she can't.
Yeah, Lisa, has it gotten away from them that this is like basically a defining moment, or do you think that now that they've gotten past this week that they can pull things back together?
Well, I don't think they've really gone past it because the resolution was a joke, right? And even Democrats criticized it, like Representative Deutsch, who is a Jewish Democrat member of Congress, called his party out for failing to specifically just address the anti-Semitism. But to your point earlier, Nancy Pelosi is facing this big challenge because there's no doubt that the party is veering towards the left. You look at something like Medicare for All, which Bernie Sanders introduced during the 2016 election. That was once considered outside of the mainstream. Now it's a mainstream part of the Democratic Party. And you see the front runners for the 2020 presidential election embracing it. It's almost a litmus test. You look at things like the Green New Deal. You look at extreme stances on abortion. So the party is certainly going to the left. And the problem for Democrats, which you pointed out, Dana, is a lot of these moderate Democrat members who represent Republican-leading districts who could be in jeopardy in 2020, and also alienating independent voters heading into 2020, and also some of these Rust Belt states and critical states that Democrats need to win.
But even Nancy Pelosi won. She has tapped the brakes on impeachment, on Medicare for All, and on the Green New Deal. She's basically kind of dismissed all of them in public comments, and yet it is what's getting all the attention.
Well, I think that's the media, but, I think that's a legitimate thing because this is the controversy. This is what people are talking about. To my mind, the big slip up here is that otherwise we'd be discussing things like the Republican revolt against the president on the emergency claim for the border, or we'd be talking about the Democratic bill H.R. 1, which tries to lay out new rules with regard to ethics and campaigns and voting. So essentially, they have run over what Pelosi wanted to be the message at this time. I will say this. I think Pelosi did a great job. I don't think she's under the pressure you guys described because she held her caucus together.
She put the mic down and hung out and walked out. She said, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to leave. She left.
But the 23 votes, Brian, that went against this resolution, not one, Lisa, not even people who said, oh, we kind of think you should have been more specific about Omar and about anti-Semitism. Not one Democrat voted against this. The party held together, and for her, that's a major triumph because if they had split, just like we're talking about the dissension within the ranks, we would really be focused on people, especially if a Jewish member had voted against this resolution.
Let's get Greg in here.
Oh, no, thank you. I'll stay out of it for now. I'm looking forward to the Michael Jackson segment. Hey, no, I got to tell you one thing about Omar. No one is safe, right? She just today slammed former president.
Sound.
Oh, you have the sound? Go for it.
Let's listen to it. As a quote, sorry. Well, then I will do it
In your voice.
No, I'm not going to try to
voice.
do it in her voice. All right. Omar says the hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage, recalling the caging of kids at the U.S. border and the droning of countries around the world on Obama's watch. She argues that the Democratic president operated within the same fundamentally broken framework as his Republican successor and said, "We can't be only upset with Trump. His policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They were just more polished than he was," Omar says.
All right, so back to what I was saying.
Michael Jackson.
Like, no one is safe, including President Obama. She slammed President Obama. Doesn't she know that is our job? What are you? There's turf in this place, and she's coming in on our turf. Look, this is what they did which was hilarious and clever, what the Democrats did, okay? She does something wrong. She has a litany of anti-Semitic slurs. Instead of acknowledging it and putting her name up there like they did, like Republicans did with Steve King, they threw it into a bucket of other wrongs, which dilutes the actual condemnation. I think we know that that's the obvious strategy by inserting it with other kinds of hate crimes and hate thoughts and so on and so on. So she kind of it's like taking a bruised apple at a farmer's market and putting it in a pile of other bruised apples. They all look the same. That's what they tried to do.
Nobody likes a bruised apple.
But see, I don't think that's clever. I think it's a win for her.
No.
I just think it's a flat-out win for her.
No, it's I'll tell you why it's clever. It's clever because then you have the Republicans saying, okay, now they can point to you and go, you Republicans didn't vote for an anti-hate bill. You must really be haters. So it was a nice little, it was jujitsu. Is that what it is? But here's the thing that I find interesting. It's amazing how traditionally liberal the right is now and how right-wing, old-school right-wing the left is, because you have Republicans condemning anti-Semitism, fighting for free speech on campus, peace talks in North Korea. Meanwhile, the Dems can't agree on anti-Semitism. They want a Cold War with Russia again, North Korea and the Saudis, and they want to shut down dialogue on campus. We have a totally flip-flop world.
Yeah, especially when you are going after Obama or defending Obama, I should say.
Well, I'm sorry, but I do they want us to get this other topic in because House Democrats aren't the only ones divided. The 2020 presidential hopefuls are also split over what the party's vision of America should be. The latest progressive shift comes from Elizabeth Warren announcing a proposal to break up big tech giants, including Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Warren claims they are monopolies with too much power. Brian, she doesn't care about the Pocahontas stuff. She's like, I'm putting policies on the table.
Right. Very interesting policies. Break up successful companies and make sure they're not successful. I don't know what she's going to go on legally to break up Google because there is Bing. We don't use it. There is Yahoo. They're just not as good. So I don't know. Take the most successful thing about America and then destroy it. That's a good one way to run. Being that Kamala Harris wants to legalize prostitution, she can't do that. Or legalize pot. Cory Booker had that. Or Medicare free preschool, Sanders has that. She's got to pick out something else that makes her unique. I just don't think this is going to resonate with anyone who has somewhat respect for the free market.
You know who people should be looking at and people aren't giving him enough attention is Bernie Sanders. He is the only Democrat who's thrown his name in the hat that is generating an excitement on the left. You're seeing,
who's genuine, though.
Well, exactly. And unlike all these other people, he comes across as authentic as well. And I think when you have such a crowded primary field, unique situations happen. I think there's very much a plausible situation where Bernie Sanders is the one that emerges as the front runner in the Democratic Party.
Greg, does she get any credit for doing something that no one else has done? When she's like, here are specific policy proposals I'm putting forward.
I just don't. You know what? She's all about co-opting someone else's character. First it was Cherokee, now it's AOC. I think that she is trying to be AOC.
That's funny because she was in Long Island City today making this announcement.
Interesting. That is funny.
Here's the thing about this.
I'm going to get me a beer.
And thanking her husband for being in their house. Where is he supposed to be?
Juan have a last
house.
No, I just think it's very difficult for the Democrats because initially they were very pro these high-tech firms because the high-tech firms give a lot of money to the Democrats, very supportive. But you know what? When it comes to issues, and we've seen this week with Facebook, they're looking at the privacy rules. They're trying to revamp, especially after 2016.
Yeah, they know it's coming.
Yeah, we'll have
There's a
tremendous.
And so I think you're wrong, Brian. I think there are lots of people in this country who say you've got to regulate. You see the Europeans already saying these high-tech companies right now are running over our societies, making
I'm not sure about
autonomous.
running-
No responsibility.
Isn't
I'm not sure about following the Europeans right off a cliff.